Hello, and welcome back to Gridiron Zeros. It's the 4th episode. Pleasure to be back. I am your host, Lucas Scott, with my other hosts,
Al Scott.
And this week we're going to be talking about some big trades going down, huge draft implications in the NFL. We're also going to touch on the interesting decision to keep around the name Washington Football Team. A couple other things. What are we talking about in the topical segment, Al?
This week we're going to talk about some really atrocious NFL draft trades, kind of based on the one that happened this week. We thought it'd be fun to discuss maybe a couple of infamous ones with some famous quarterbacks and other positions.
Yeah, ones that didn't work out too hot. We'll wrap up the show then with more Lions news. Jared Goff restructuring his contract, what that means, and then a couple other free agent signings.
Lions news is not as grandiose as the last couple episodes have been.
No.
There's been very much deep dives on the state of the team. This is more of this is what's happening this week, and it's been mostly slow. So.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so huge trades, huge moves coming out of the NFL this week. The first one being that the 49ers are moving up in the draft to number 3 with the Dolphins. They trade in return the 12th overall pick, a first rounder in 2022, a third rounder in 2022, and a first rounder in 2023. So quite the bag for the Dolphins. And now you have to assume that the 49ers are moving up to get a quarterback.
I don't think a team makes a trade that big not to do that. It'd be pretty amazing if it was just for Penei Sewell or a wide receiver or something.
Kyle Pitts at number 3.
I think the writing's on the wall. It's got to be a QB, but the question is,
what do they do with Jimmy G?
Well, I was going to say the question is, who's the QB?
Yeah, that too. Absolutely. Before we dive into what they're going to do with the 3rd overall, another trade happens where the Miami Dolphins then ship number 12 and I think that's a 3rd rounder, the 123rd overall pick, and a first rounder in 2022 to the Eagles. And in return, Miami gets the 6th overall pick and the 156th overall pick.
Miami's wheeling and dealing.
Wheeling and dealing. They're set up pretty well for the next couple of years. And they move back up into the 6th position, possibly to get Penei Sewell. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. I'm probably butchering the living crap out of that.
It's pretty close based on what I've heard.
Or, a huge target for Tua.
Well, first off, let me just say with the Dolphins, I love the move to go back to 6. I know that they had to give up an additional first-round pick. But the thing is, if you look at all the assets that they have in the next couple of years, it's basically like chump change to them.
Yeah.
They have so many first rounders and second rounders the next 3 drafts. It's insane. So the reason
this wasn't even in their first rounder. This was Houston's.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason I like it is because it doesn't really – it still puts them in that really interesting spot in the first round where there are still going to be QBs on the board. And that's like the gold rush in this draft. I feel like everyone's kind of going for these like 4 to 5 quarterbacks.
Well, now it's up in the air. A lot of people are thinking now the first 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks.
Well, let's just say that there's 5 QBs, top QBs in this draft. Okay,
there are.
So
Mac Jones people are saying Mac Jones is also going to go in the top 10.
Miami's got that last pick where it's like one of those guys is probably still going to be there, if not 2. And they also could keep playing it like Tua's our guy. Wink, wink, but maybe there's someone they would consider at 6'2". So they're doing a really good job of playing the game, as they say. They're right in the thick of those QB picks. There's going to be so many hungry teams probably giving them calls. Like I think they're going to get more in exchange for this pick than they had to give up if they trade back.
Do you think? I don't think they will.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting spot to be in for them. I really like them.
Yeah, it is super interesting. What they end up doing with 6, I can't see them trading that again, but
you don't think anything's possible. Why are they trading 2? They're ultimately spending 2 first-round picks then on Penei Sewell. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. It makes more sense to me to have that pick that they can dangle and then see what they can get for it. And if they really can't get anything for it, then they take Penei Sewell. It makes more sense for me for them to make that high risk, high reward deal right in the top 10 picks.
Well, they got a great bag for the 3rd overall, which again wasn't even their pick to begin with. It was Houston's.
Right.
I had to correct myself on that, which came from a previous trade for anybody that might not remember that. But I have to imagine that the reason they did that was because they got a great amount in return for that 3rd overall pick, but then didn't have to give up as much to jump back up into 6th, where they now have, where at 12, you probably don't have the top wide receiver in the class, maybe like the top 2 wide receivers in the class, because really everybody's looking at Kyle Pitts as a wide receiver. Nobody's really looking at him at tight end.
They could use him either way.
Yeah, exactly. Or the 1st overall offensive tackle, which is fantastic for them because, I mean, if you can get, a very solid left tackle for Tua, actually protect him, then you're golden. But they're not going to get that.
And Penei Sewell are 2 anchors that you can build that offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. No absolutely.
If before we jump into San Fran here, just because that's the more saucy aspect of this trade, who do you think with that number 6 pick, if they make the pick, who is Miami taking?
Jamar Chase.
I think so, too.
Is my idea, yeah.
Yeah, because if you really want to see what Tua's got, you have to give him something. And Devontae Parker is good, but very injury-prone and inconsistent, so you need to give him more weapons, and I think that would be a slam dunk if they get him. Or Najee Harris, the running back from Alabama, could be good, too. It's Alabama, right?
Yeah. But nobody's picking him to go in the top 10.
Are you kidding me? The dude's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't even see. I feel like I haven't seen him in any mock drafts going in the 1st round even.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, but moving on to San Fran.
Yeah.
So they clearly moved up to 3 to get presumably a quarterback.
I have to imagine
they gave up a lot of draft capital with Jimmy Garoppolo still on the roster.
Yeah.
With a roughly $25 million paycheck that he's going to be making this year. It's an interesting move. We kind of have talked about, is there going to be a reunion with Jimmy G and the Patriots, and are the Niners going to move off of Jimmy G? As of right now, in the last couple of weeks with all this crazy free agency moves, he's been staying put, and it's been kind of strange. And then this bomb has just dropped on us out of nowhere. So
yeah,
what do you think?
You really haven't heard anything about them moving him this entire time too. Like, I haven't seen any rumors or anything like that up until this trade happened. And it's because this trade makes it like clear as day. Like they're not going to do that unless they're taking a quarterback, like you said. So yeah, I don't know what they're doing with Jimmy G. Was it Darnold that the Jets said, like, we won't even take a 1st rounder for him, we just want him off the team? Or was it Jimmy G?
No, it was Darnold. Yeah, okay. Jimmy G, they have not even said, here's a price tag.
Yeah, okay.
No, they haven't even said that. Okay. Darnold, they're openly shopping.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking, is they're probably going to have to get something like very minuscule in return for him at this point, because he's injury prone. Even when he's playing, people are kind of questioning it, and he's getting paid like top 5 quarterback money.
I saw some thing on social. I don't know if it was like a report or something, but someone was like, does Jimmy G to the Panthers make sense? And I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
He's an upgrade from Bridgewater if he can stay healthy, but that's the question. Can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
And he's more expensive than Teddy B, less consistent. I don't know. It's a spot, but I can't. Besides New England and there, I really don't know of too many spots where they would give up anything to get him. Yeah, I don't know how much money they'll lose if they just straight up cut him. So I don't think they're going to do that.
No, I think they would lose a ton of dead cap.
So they might be rolling in next year with a rookie and him on the roster, and you just have competition in camp. Best man wins. The rookie will probably play at some point. Know his injury history. Who do you think the QB is that they want?
It's tough to say. So, from my understanding, there's 3 quarterbacks going to be left at that point.
Right, because Lawrence
and Zach Wilson. Everybody's saying that Zach Wilson's going to be a Jet, and obviously Trevor Lawrence is going first overall. So they have Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones from Alabama. I think that they'll draft Justin Fields, in my personal opinion.
Really?
I think really like the only thing that's so questionable about it is Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL really just don't pan out.
Say the same thing for Alabama QBs too.
Yeah, well, I mean, Alabama really hasn't had any like stud QBs in their offense ever.
I think AJ McCarron was the last one
who was and really,
NFL player.
And really, I mean, like he wasn't even that good at Alabama. Mac Jones is actually probably one of their best quarterbacks in the last couple of years.
Well, all the analysts and stuff are saying that Mac Jones is seemingly the most pro-ready quarterback.
Which
kind of makes sense if you're the Niners, and they truly are a quarterback away from being a legit Super Bowl contender. So from that perspective, I don't think they're going to draft someone who's going to need some time to develop. Like, no, their window's right now. So if you're looking at it from that lens, I guess Mac Jones makes the most sense, but I think it's going to be Justin Fields, if I was to guess. He seems like the most
explosive, playmaking,
athletic
quarterback. That seems to be like the downfall for Mac Jones right now. He's like, a lot of people are like, has this kid ever seen a weight room? yeah. So, but I do agree with you, and I'm actually changing my answer now. I actually do think it's Mac Jones. I think they will take him.
That's the hot rumor out there right now that it's going to.
And wouldn't that be something?
What would really be something is that the Jets didn't take a QB at 2, and then Zach Wilson.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
It would be unbelievable.
Yeah.
After his pro day, especially, his draft stock is soaring right now. He is definitive number 2. Like, I don't think there's any question.
Yeah. So, the other fun aspect that we can play is if San Francisco does take Mac Jones, he jumps Justin Fields and Trey Lance, who everybody's pegging to be top 5. And then, you have Atlanta, who's probably going to take one of those 2. And then you have Cincinnati, who I think is a lock for Penei Sewell. I'm going to say his name different every time I announce it.
I think it's just Sewell.
Penei Sewell, because they need somebody to protect Burrow. And then you get to Miami, who I think Miami's going to take Jamar Chase. You get to us. I think we're going to draft Micah Parsons or Kyle Pitts, one of the 2. And then who's at 8?
Us being the Detroit Lions.
Yes, of course. Then you have Carolina, who I think that's where the other quarterback will go.
Okay.
And then Denver, who takes Kyle Pitts. Dallas, who takes the cornerback out of Alabama. I think that's how the top 10 is going to go.
It's really interesting. I really hate to see the Lions take Kyle Pitts, but,
It would be interesting, wouldn't it?
The last wrinkle of this trade that we should talk about is the Eagles, because Miami traded number 12 to them for number 6.
Yeah.
And
they get a first rounder in the
future. The Eagles picked up some assets along the way. So I think this is a pretty clear sign that they're kind of rolling with Jalen Hurts, and they're not even going to flirt with taking any of those guys unless magically one of them's there at 12. Then maybe we'll see. But it seems like they want to roll with Jalen Hurts. They signed Joe Flacco in the last week, who's obviously
good veteran.
He's a veteran, and he's going to be a backup most likely. I think he's wanting to compete or whatever, but he's not a real threat to Jalen Hurts at this point. So the Eagles kind of are staying put and gathering assets. And of all the crazy and confusing moves that they've made recently, this one seems the least crazy and confusing to me. It seems the most logical and smart move they made.
Yeah, I guess. My thing with the trade is that, they are down in the dumps with a lot of players currently. But I think more so the wide receiver position, which if you're sitting at 6, you're getting the best wide receiver in the draft.
Well, based on your projections here that you just ran through. I mean, they can still get a pretty darn good one at 12, most likely.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's why I think they did it, is because they can probably get, Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith at 12.
Devontae Smith would be a great get for their offense.
Yeah. Well, people are a little down on him too because he's so small. But, I mean, there's a ton of small wide receivers in the NFL.
Djax 2.0.
Yeah. So I don't hate it. I know I was kind of reading through some Twitter comments. I know Eagles fans really hate it.
They hate everything.
But yeah,
sorry,
that's
Philly
true.
Fans, but you guys are impossible to please.
But yeah, I think that's what they're going to end up doing is that they were like, you know what, we can deal with one of these other guys. They might even like one of the other guys even more, and that's why they decided to do it. So it will be interesting to see what they end up picking there at 12.
So Lucas has got Mac Jones at 3.
Yeah,
that's his choice. I'm saying it's Justin Fields at 3, and we'll see where the draft takes them from there.
And I think Atlanta takes Trey Lance, quarterback out of North Dakota State.
That's
bold.
bold.
I think Fields drops down to Carolina.
That's bold.
Wouldn't that be something though? Explosive QB back in Carolina.
Well, I was going to say in Atlanta, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense for them right now. I mean, they have Matt Ryan under contract, like they're shackled to him right now, like they can't do anything about it.
I wonder why everybody thinks that they're going to take a quarterback then.
Well, it's because Matt Ryan is 35 years old or 36 years old, and they're looking like they're headed for a blow up here. So if there's the right guy there, then maybe. But they would benefit a lot more from a Kyle Pitts or a Penei Sewell if he's there. Like they're going to benefit a lot more from an elite offensive weapon for their offense. Besides Julio, who's also getting up there.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's an interesting aspect. But I mean, like, hey, you let him sit behind Matt Ryan for a couple of years. I mean, maybe a year.
But yeah, in today's NFL, a year if we're lucky.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be very interesting.
What's our next bit of news?
NFL expands the regular season to 17 games, which is pretty interesting.
Official.
This is officially official.
Okay.
I don't believe it's starting this year, but probably next year.
Okay.
Because they've already come out with the opponents for this year. So I can't imagine that they're going to be like, oh, yeah, we're also adding on these guys.
Well, I know that the Lions, supposed Week 17 opponent was going to be the Broncos. So they had proposals made.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it might be happening this year.
Yeah. So that was going to be my thing, what is going to what my idea, my most interesting fact about this is what is that 17th game going to be? Because the way that the league is already structured when it comes to the schedule is that, you play your division opponents twice. So that's 6 games. And then you play another NFC division, which brings it up to 10. And then you play an AFC division, which brings it up to 14. And then you play the team that finished in your same rank in the other NFC division, which brings it up to 16.
I just realized from the NFL's perspective, this is a move purely for them, maybe because number one, it's another game.
Oh yeah, so it's just a money move.
But 100%. Number two, I don't know what the official selection method is for this 17th game, but if it's just the NFL being able to cherry pick a matchup,
oh my God, wouldn't that be awesome?
I mean, they can be like, yeah, Packers Chiefs, sure, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Just purely just for ratings.
I know, wouldn't that be so cool? Because I think what it's going to end up being is it's going to be AFC versus NFC. And they're going to alternate who is at home every year. And I think that would be so cool if they came out on week 8 and was like, okay, week 17 matchups, here they are. The week 8. So, the 6-2 Steelers are facing off against the 7-1 49ers, and they just start making these awesome matchups.
Yeah, that really would help in situations too, where at the beginning of the year they're like, we're going to have, the Packers play the Buccaneers, and this is assuming that Aaron Rodgers is healthy and Tom Brady is healthy. And there's no major catastrophic injuries, and sometimes those matchups can get derailed because the star player is hurt and like it's not as like sexy of a game anymore. So if you were to wait till a later point in the season, that might be kind of a smart way to do that. I hope
they're not gonna.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they're not gonna do that, but it would be cool.
What about like a fan vote? That'd be cool. Like
that would be extremely interesting. Yeah.
See which matchups you want.
I mean, they could do any of this stuff, and it would be so cool. But they're not gonna do it. They're just gonna like be like, all right, yep, this is how we're gonna figure it out. It's gonna be an algorithm.
I will say in their defense, they do a pretty good job of getting some great matchups. I mean, the only boring ones I think, in my opinion, that we see every year are the Cowboys Giants games on Sunday Night Football. We see every single year. The NFC East is always on Sunday
Jacksonville versus Tennessee on Thursday Night Football. Color Rush.
You gotta handle those out. I mean, I would bury those in the one.
I don't know who decides those games, but they need to be fired on spot, because some of the games that they limp out in primetime television is embarrassing. The other aspect to this is now preseason gets cut down to 3 games instead of 4, which is
thank God.
Yeah, thank God. But when does the season start? Does the season start a week earlier now, or does the season go a week later? I think the season has to start a week earlier now.
So it starts in August, you would think?
Yeah. Because it starts the first Sunday of September. Is that right?
Yeah, I could see that being more.
Or maybe it's the second Sunday of September.
It's always like a freaking holiday when the NFL starts in September.
Yeah.
You know, like it would be weird for them to be like, it's actually the last week of August. Woo!
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Baseball's
That'd be awesome.
on. Like, it's just kind of weird. I don't know. I think it would just be the first week of September. Still, like, just adjust the preseason around it, and I'm all for less preseason. I understand the importance of it from a team perspective, but all for watching less of those games. They're so boring.
No, they're horrible, especially in that fourth one. The fourth one is so pointless.
Yeah, the worst.
Okay, so Washington comes out and says that they're probably sticking with the name, the Washington Football Team, and this kind of stems from Dan Snyder buying out some other stakeholders in the team, correct?
Yeah, Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington Football Team, now has the majority of ownership, if not all of it, of the Washington Football Team. He bought out several stakeholders, and he's it now. So they make this decision, and I don't know. I'm not a Washington fan, so I can't really speak to how annoyed they are with all this, but I can tell you, as just an average NFL fan, I'm like, great.
Kind of a hot take. The name's kind of growing on me. I don't know why. It's so stupid that it's almost kind of good.
It's been funny to see comments that call them just the team. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I can't take it seriously. It's a bad reason that they had to change the name to begin with because of all the offense, to the people taking over the years to the previous team name. This was just the laziest name that they could come up with.
It's so stupid.
It was meant to be a placeholder.
Yeah.
And even then, it was like, okay, come on. Like, this is what
I know. You could have come up with something.
Now they've had a full calendar year
to
come up with a new identity, and there's been a ton of, suggestions from fans. I follow a lot of, creative, sports-driven accounts and stuff just because of my personal interests.
Yeah.
And, there's been some awesome concept stuff for them. Really could take it to the next level.
Was there any team names that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I really like the. There was one that was the Red Tails. It's kind of it's like a World War, I believe, II pilot reference, and you can still use the R. You can still have the red R, they have one of their throwback logos. And, it's kind of got the same ring as the old name. Washington Red Tails could sound kind of cool. It's kind of got a similar association as well.
Yeah.
That one was my favorite. I've heard the Washington Warriors, which kind of generic. I don't really love that one as much, but regardless, there are suggestions that go far above and beyond the Washington Football Team. So the fact that we're sticking with this makes me think that if they keep having success, it ain't going anywhere.
No.
And I'm pretty sure Dan Snyder was on record last year saying as much, saying if it sticks on and we start playing well, then we'll kind of roll with it. And that's basically what's happening.
Yeah, it's very straight to the point. There's no getting around it. They are a football team. They should have, you know what they should have done is they should have been super American and called it the soccer team.
Wow.
Yeah, because Europeans would have been like, "Oh, it's football."
They could have gravitated towards that team. That could have been their team. But okay, if they are gonna do this, and they're gonna stick with this. They really got to embrace that and make that their identity, because last year felt like kind of just a hodgepodge, cobbled together rush job, because that's what it was. But I really hate the numbers on the helmets. I don't like their jerseys are just the same jerseys, just minus.
There's not a whole lot you can do with the logo. Because, I mean, I don't think you can do anything. You can only do a W.
They made that W, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So put that on the helmet. I mean, I don't understand. I don't like the direction of like the look. It all just screams patch job.
Yeah.
You
know what else? Permanent. Now I'm thinking about it. You know what else it screams? Just old school. Like everything that they're doing, like the name football team just feels 1940s. Their uniforms feel 1940s. You know, like everything about the team.
Even that, they've got an awesome throwback jersey. I use all the time Madden. It's like it's got like the helmet looks like it's like a leather helmet. It's just all brown. Kind of got that leathery.
Yeah, texture. Packers have that too.
And like if you're gonna roll with that vibe, then fine. But like do more. Like it's just so patch job is the word I keep going back to. That's what it is. Yeah. So if you're gonna be your identity, boost it, make it better.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
But ultimately, I don't think they should make that their identity. They should do something more impactful and like more
completely different,
thought out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. But I'm coming around to it. Okay, now let's do a little bit of blast from the past and judge people for the decisions that they made. Now, hindsight being 2020, and how bad they were.
Yes, us, the Detroit Lions fans, are going to sit here and judge and mock other franchises for their
horrible draft day decisions.
Yep. Okay,
because obviously, I mean, we've never done anything wrong.
No, of course not.
Always have the best drafts.
Brandon Pettigrew was slam dunk.
So we're looking at teams that traded up to get a certain player that they really wanted, what they gave up for him, and then how that player's career with that team ended up panning out.
Yeah, we kind of talked about at the top of the show. The idea with this topic this week was that the fringe of the big San Francisco trade to presumably go get their next franchise quarterback or franchise player at 3, whoever it ends up being. We thought it'd be fun to look back at some of these infamously terrible decisions to do the exact same thing and give up a ton of resources to move up and go get their guy.
Yeah. So let's talk about my personal favorite, Mitch Trubisky. The Chicago Bears, who had the 3rd overall pick, trade to the 49ers the 3rd overall pick, the 67th overall pick, the 111th overall pick, and then I believe, I can't read my chicken scratch writing, a future first rounder, which ended up being 10th, I think. A future pick.
A future high pick.
Yeah. All the move up to number 2 to draft Mitch Trubisky. Looking back now, this trade still makes 0 sense.
You know what the craziest thing about this trade is? That Ryan Pace, the GM who made that trade, is still the GM of the Bears. Still.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a meme at this point. It's a meme that they passed on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson to take Mitch Trubisky, who there was a lot of hype.
Everybody says that they passed on Patrick Mahomes, which they did, but nobody was picking Patrick Mahomes that high. Nobody. The only player that you can truly say they passed up on was Deshaun Watson, because he was the only other quarterback that was supposed to be going that high. Mahomes was always late first rounder.
I remember Trubisky was even in the conversation to be the number 1 pick.
Nobody. Well, I didn't think anybody was taking Trubisky that high. Everybody was talking about Deshaun Watson.
Because that was the year that the Browns took Myles Garrett, number 1,
Yeah.
I believe. So there was talk all the way up until then they were just going to take Mitch Trubisky at 1, and Myles Garrett would have not been the first selection. But, I mean, revisionist history, sure, but it's an epic fail because they could have had 2 quarterbacks who are far better than Mitchell Trubisky. And we kind of touched on this last week when we talked about him signing with Buffalo, that maybe it truly is just an issue of the Bears gave him, nothing to work with.
Yeah.
Maybe he will flourish and have a career here and we'll just be eating all of our words. But I kind of doubt it at this point. It seems pretty unlikely that he's going to pan out as a legit superstar in the NFL. So from that perspective, based on everything else that was available on the board, based on everything they gave up to get him, it was an epic fail.
Yeah. I also have to apologize. I'm now looking at the draft order, and I totally thought Patrick Mahomes went in like 22nd.
He was like 10.
He was 10th.
Yeah.
So,
he went far down.
Retrack everything that I just said, basically.
It wasn't like a second round.
No, I thought he was late first round. I can't believe the Chiefs were even picking that high.
They
looking back.
To get
Oh, they did? It was from Buffalo. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, yeah. And he ended up getting picked before Deshaun Watson, too.
Right.
So now I am like, this was horrible.
Oh, no. That's completely
it just completely changed my perspective. That was terrible.
Especially that this team has desperately been looking for the next franchise QB since I don't even know who.
Jay Cutler.
Great. Their last great
Jay Cutler.
Okay, so they're looking for Jay Cutler's epic replacement.
Yeah,
and they failed to get him.
Well, it was their fault for letting him walk.
Number 2 overall pick. They traded all that stuff or they had to trade everything to get him, and now he's the backup quarterback in the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. Okay, so one that's kind of pulls on the heartstrings a little bit, tugs on the heartstrings. Was it back in 2012? The Redskins give up the 6th overall pick, the 39th overall pick, a future first rounder, which ended up being the 22nd overall pick, and then another future first rounder, which ended up being the 2nd overall pick, which that one hurts. All this to trade up to number 2, I believe, and draft Robert Griffin III.
Okay, well, looking at it in 2021, obviously it did not.
Hindsight 2020,
But at the time,
it was a great pick.
It was a very good pick for them, and it gave that franchise a lot of much needed juice.
Yeah,
it was.
He was sensational his rookie year.
That rookie year was pretty unbelievable, and they made the playoffs, and they looked like they had found the next great quarterback for that franchise, and ultimately it kind of got derailed because of injuries and.
Which, if I'm remembering this correctly, which I'm probably not, considering the track record I'm on with this podcast, it is kind of their fault the way his career panned out, because I believe he was pretty injured in that playoff game.
Washington messing up?
Yeah.
No.
And they sent him out to a peak Seattle Seahawks defense. Legion of Boom, and I'm pretty sure he got torn to shreds that game. So kind of their fault for doing that, and it got him more injured. And then, after that, it was the guy just couldn't stay on the field, and he lost all that juice.
He was unbelievable at Baylor too.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're just looking at these trade ups, I guess we're calling. I don't know what we're calling them, but if we're looking at these moves to move up in the draft, we're judging them. I don't hate that they did this to get him, because it seemed like it was going to work, and it seemed like it was.
And it did work for a season.
It did, and ultimately ended up going off the tracks, and that's unfortunately kind of what happens in the NFL sometimes. But it's not like a Trubisky situation where they had they had a 9-game sample size or whatever that he played in college. Like, he played like one actual full season of football in North Carolina, which is Trubisky.
Yeah.
And they took him number 2 over those other 2 quarterbacks. It's not that kind of situation. The number 1 pick was Andrew Luck. Definitive. He's the number 1 pick. He's basically the same as Trevor Lawrence in this draft, seemingly. RG3 was no doubt going to be a star too. So to do what they did, I don't blame them. RG3's kind of had a career since Washington. He's kind of bounced around the league as
a backup.
At Cleveland, he kind of got a shot to see what he could do. But again, injuries just took him off the field and ultimately didn't work out. But I don't blame them.
Yeah. So our third and final quarterback is the most hilarious one, which we can say the most hilarious because this guy has turned his life around after his whole ordeal happened. But the San Diego Chargers trade the 3rd overall pick, the 33rd overall pick, a future first rounder, which ended up being the 8th overall pick, a wide receiver and a linebacker. I couldn't recognize them by name. So I don't know how good they were. But they do all this, trade up to number 2, and select the most infamous draft bust in NFL history, Ryan Leaf.
I'm not as privy to this era of the NFL as maybe you. I don't know. You might have to do a lot of the heavy lifting on this one. All I know about this guy is obviously he's an infamous draft bust. He went,
one of the biggest.
Because Peyton Manning,
and then Ryan Leaf. Yeah.
And I just remember hearing all sorts of he was the biggest draft bust of all time. He had so many off the field issues. His play was horrible. He was out of the league in a couple years. I mean, I don't know the full story. I'm going to let you kind of fill in the pieces here, but I do know that was an epic fail.
Yeah, Ryan Leaf was, for the time that he played, I think that he was very bad. And he had off the field issues for a little bit. He was not very good in the locker room. I think there are still like clips of him going around, like just getting into it with a reporter. Obviously, like you hold it so heavy because first overall pick was Peyton Manning, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And
true generational.
Yeah, like easily one of the greatest of all time. And then you have Ryan Leaf, who just got, man. I don't know if he was still in the league when this happened or he was out of the league, but he had, I believe, a couple DUIs. And then, now I think they did a 30 for 30 on him. He has turned his life around. He doesn't live with much regret, which is good. Obviously he threw away like what could have been. But yeah, like good for him for turning his life around, like actually making something of it instead of just going down as,
taking the Johnny Manziel route.
Yeah. 100%. That's a great way to put it. Instead of...
I can't believe we still have to watch him, by the way. I still see highlights of him
God.
Whatever.
In that horrendous football league where it's just not going to last.
But again, we're talking about not really grading, but just whether these moves were worth it or not. And obviously this one definitely was not.
Yeah, no, definitely not. All right, the fourth one, our first running back, our only running back. The Cleveland Browns trade the 4th overall pick, a 4th rounder, a 5th rounder, and a 7th rounder, I believe, to jump to number 3 to draft Trent Richardson, who was, I believe, a Heisman Trophy winner coming out of Alabama when they were just producing running backs. I mean, still are to this day. Yeah. So an Alabama running back, Heisman Trophy winner, had a great, phenomenal college career.
Same draft year as RG3, I believe. The 2012 draft. I think it went Luck, RG3, Trent Richardson.
It might have, yeah.
It was the same year.
Really, I think, I don't think he had a bad first year.
No, he was good. He was good for like a year and a half. Like, he was a really good player, and it looked like it was going to work out.
And then, like, the wheels just fell off the wagon.
Maybe that's a theme of the 2012 draft class. I saw some post.
You are right. It was that draft, yeah.
Talking about where all the 2012 first round top 10 picks are now, and like
it's pretty bad.
Retired, like out of the league. backup, like not,
top 10. Andrew Luck retired. RG3 backup. Trent Richardson retired. Matt Khalil, which I pretty sure
he's been in the league for a while.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah.
Justin Blackman.
He flamed
he
out
played 20
quick.
games in the NFL. He had a ton of off the field issues.
If the Jaguars had traded up to get him, he could have been on this list.
Yeah. Morris Claiborne, who went to Dallas. I don't know if he's still around. I think he is. Yeah,
he's stuck around.
Mark Barron,
who converted to a linebacker for the Bucs for a couple of years. I remember that, like, or the Rams or something.
Yeah,
had to kind of switch up what he was doing.
Ryan Tannehill.
That's amazing.
Yeah, right. What a career that guy's had.
We talk about this with like Trubisky, though. I mean, Ryan Tannehill goes to the Titans. He's put in the right situation.
Exactly.
And the dude is
what he could have been. Yeah. Or what he can be. 9th overall, Carolina selects a linebacker, the All-American Dream, Luke Kuechly, one of the greatest linebackers of all time, in my opinion. And then Stephon Gilmore at number 10 for Buffalo.
Arguably the number one
cornerback in the league. In the NFL. Yeah. What a wild top 10 draft that was.
Do a show just on that class.
Yeah.
So Trent Richardson, though, he had a very, very brief stint of being a hot, successful player in the league, and infamously was traded to the Indianapolis Colts kind of out of nowhere. It was pretty surprising when it happened. I remember that.
I think he was traded for a first-round pick.
So Cleveland kind of recouped their investment, I guess, and then
in a way,
obviously did not work out.
No, he didn't. If I'm not mistaken, he might hold a record for like a certain amount of carries having the lowest yards per carry average. He has a 3.3 yards per carry average, which, if you're not, too familiar with rushing stats, it's pretty freaking bad.
It's not a trophy you want to have in your house.
No, definitely not. So Trent Richardson definitely goes down as an infamous bust in certain ways.
But in comparison to the guys we covered so far, and our last guy in this list here, I mean, at least Cleveland recouped their investment out of the first round.
Honestly, maybe one of the better ones out of the bunch.
A whiff at number 3, and they probably lost some picks, but overall, they could have got burned worse.
Yeah. All right. Final one. I believe it was Buffalo. Yes, Buffalo in 2013. Or maybe it was 2014. They swap first round picks and then give up a first rounder, a 5th rounder, and a 7th rounder just a first rounder and a 5th rounder for the next year. And they take Sammy Watkins, who the reason they did this, from my understanding, they had just drafted E.J. Manuel the prior year, the next franchise quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, and they needed an offensive fire. They needed some firepower on the offensive side, so they take Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, Buffalo taking him that
high didn't work out. He just recently signed with the Baltimore Ravens, actually, in the offseason, because the Chiefs. I don't know if his contract ended and he just became a free agent, or if they cut him. Yeah, I think so.
He's at least flashed at times. He's never been the guy that was like worth the top 10 draft pick or whatever.
Top 5. I mean, he went 4th overall.
Yeah, he was never worth that level of draft capital, but he's been proven to be a pretty consistently good receiver in the NFL. I think that you could put a lot of guys above him, especially people you could draft above him. But
yeah, wide receivers that ended up going after Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans at number 7, Odell at 12, Brandon Cooks, who cares? Kelvin Benjamin.
Brandon Cooks has probably had a more solid career than Watkins, though, don't you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't fully disagree with that. I mean, we can
bounced around
dive
quite
in.
A bit.
Yeah,
I mean, he's been on quite a few teams at this point, but there's a reason he keeps getting traded for actual significant draft capitals, because he actually is like a pretty important piece to wherever he goes offensively. He's always been pretty good. He was on the Patriots, he was on the Saints, the Rams, now he's in the Texans. So RIP to his career. But
What's so funny is that Sammy Watkins has had roughly the same career, just more yardage, as the 10th pick overall in that draft. You know who that was?
I am going to take a guess here and say that was Eric Ebron.
That was Eric Ebron.
It was.
The Detroit Lions select him at 10th overall.
His stats are that bad?
So
compared to Ebron, a tight end.
Ebron has 339 receptions. Watkins has 321. Watkins has 4,665 yards. Ebron has 3,753. And then Watkins has 33 touchdowns. Ebron has 32.
I had
so almost identical except for the yardage.
I thought you were going to say Watkins and Brandon Cook's stats are actually pretty comparable. No, Eric Ebron going with that. That is much worse than I thought. Wow. Okay, definitely not worth 5 draft.
Yeah, it's also just awesome to note the players that went after Ebron that we could have had. Taylor Lewan, who is a phenomenal tackle. Odell, Aaron Donald, Kyle Fuller, Ryan Shazier, Zach Martin, who's a phenomenal guard, CJ Mosley. The list goes on and on. So,
hey, who needs any of those guys?
Yeah. But that recaps, some of the draft busts that we love most.
And who knows? Maybe Sanford will join the list this year.
Yeah, who knows?
Let's go!
All right, now we're going to end the show with some Lions news. Obviously, the biggest thing to come out of this week was Jared Goff restructuring his contract. So from my understanding, he turns $15 million of this year into signing bonus, which clears up cap space for this year. And then over the next 3 seasons, $5 million gets tacked on to his cap hit for those 3 seasons. So his cap hit for the next 3 seasons is going to be a little bit over $30 million.
Well, first gut reaction to this was kind of, if he doesn't work out this year, it's going to make it a little bit more of a sting to cut him eventually. It's going to be more money to let him go.
Yeah, this is like the first move they made the offseason where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, in my opinion.
Well, I guess it makes sense in terms of just allocating resources to get more cap room, to add more pieces.
Yeah.
Because this roster is a skeleton crew and they need players. So it makes sense, but from that perspective alone.
At the same time, who are you going to sign that's going to hit the cap that hard? There's nobody left.
Well, they just need pieces and role players. They just need money to get those guys.
And that's what they've been doing, but it's all 1 year, minimum deals.
That's what I expected. I mean, I'm totally cool with that, but the fact of the matter is that we didn't seemingly have the cap room to go after actual pieces that could.
Oh, what the hell happened to our cap room?
I mean, we weren't in horrible situation, but we.
No, I thought we were one of the top teams of space.
We were not.
No.
Oh. So we needed to make some room. I guess it makes sense. But like I said, the thing that's just most concerning is now if
they're locked in.
If he's a pumpkin this year,
yeah, he's going to be the quarterback for maybe 3 years at this point.
It's going to hurt a little bit more to get rid of him. I mean, I think that they would, if he really truly sucks, I don't think they'll have a problem moving on from him. But it's just going to have a little more of a bite on the way out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's be optimistic here. Maybe it'll be fine.
Yeah, let's be optimistic. Yeah, no, I'm sure it will be. I think Goff's going to have a great season.
Drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. So then the other news was 3 more free agent signings. We get more wide receivers with Khalif Raymond and Damian Ratley. But I believe Khalif Raymond is actually more so a special teams player, and that seems to be the replacement for Jamal Agnew.
Do these guys have – because I don't know who either one of these guys are.
They're both 1-year deals for $2 million.
Do they have any shared DNA with any of our staff? Have they worked with them before?
I don't think so.
So they're just guys who are taking a fly around and see if it works out?
I think so, yeah. I do believe that is the plan. I would assume that both those guys are kind of filler. It would be cool if they signed Khalif Raymond because he's like super fast. That maybe like they're gonna let Goff kind of air it out a little bit this season.
I like it as long as in the draft, if we just pick up another receiver, because if we have Tyrell Williams, Quintez Cephas, and Brashad Perryman, and someone in the draft, that's kind of your top 4 rotation. I kind of envision it.
Yeah,
I would think. So these guys are kind of just like.
So you are pulling for Kyle Pitts?
No. Well, no, not. Let me rephrase. Not a wide receiver in the first round. How about later in the draft? Because this is supposed to be a draft with some depth at that position too.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So target someone later, and these are guys that we needed people. Like we needed people at wide receiver. So
That's true.
I don't have much to say on these, but I'm glad that we have some help.
Yeah. The other one was linebacker Alex Alonso, 1 year, $1.75 million deal.
Best move of this bunch of moves, I would say.
You think? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, anything that has this like shared DNA with New Orleans for Dan Campbell, in my mind, is like a good move. He brings in guys like Josh Hill, like this guy. It's just people that he can work with and is familiar with. That he's not like you're giving me this look, but he's not like a Trey Flowers. Okay, he's not like I'm going to pay him $90 million.
Okay,
like
that aspect, that's so true.
This guy, I've worked with him before. He's a solid player. I know him. We'll get the system.
I'm looking at you like this is the same thing Patricia did.
Okay, right, but this is at a bargain.
Way minor level. So now, that's so true.
The Quintricia way of doing this kind of move would be, let's trade New England draft capital to get this player that they probably don't need. There's a difference between that and signing a veteran who at a good.
Quintricia would have signed this guy for a 4-year, $80 million deal.
Also, we can't sit here and pretend that he's like a step down from Jones.
It's so true too. Our linebacking core is so bad.
I mean,
it's like, you know what? Like, welcome.
I like the move.
Yeah,
I think it's
I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about him. I do remember seeing him play only because he's got those long locks. Yeah, he's got the luscious hair, which that's exciting. We get to see that in person next season. So yeah, that's funny though. Alex Alonso, you know what? If he's good, I'm buying his jersey. If there's one thing you need to know about me in this podcast, I want a good linebacking core. That's why I'm pulling for Micah Parsons at 7. If they don't take Parsons, it won't be the end of days, but they got to take Kyle Pitts instead.
So just to clarify here, I know this is an audio format, but this player signing started off from Lucas giving me this like look, like what are you thinking?
My eyes are squinting.
By the end of our discussion on him, he will now be buying his jersey. That's
so true. I looked at it. I was like, you know what? I didn't hate the signing, but the way that you were phrasing it, like, like he's a Saints guy. He's bringing him in from the Saints. We're becoming the Detroit Saints.
Never said that.
No, you didn't, but you implied it. But no, yeah. I mean, if he can bring some fire into the linebacking core, like, God bless you.
He's an upgrade over probably everyone on our linebacking core.
Yeah, he's got to be.
He's got experience with our head coach. He knows his system. He knows his culture, and he seems like a relatively cheap deal. So
yeah,
all those things seem good to me.
No, they seem good to me too. Yeah. All right, that's going to do it from us. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Gridiron Zeros. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Zeros and check out our YouTube channel. We're posting out clips of the show, and so if you don't want to listen to us babble about football for a full hour and a half, then you can just jump on YouTube and check out one of the clips.
Yeah, any sort of feedback too is obviously welcome. We're very new to this whole format, and it's just a fun passion project we've been doing, and just we're kind of getting our feet wet in this thing. So if you guys have any sort of like feedback or ideas, or Lucas is just needs to kind of change his attitude. Sort of.
I was going to say, if you guys just want to leave us 5-star reviews on Spotify or whatever you're listening on, you go right ahead.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, I won't twist your arm.
1 stars are not preferred. But
No. I mean, like, if you're going to review it, just give it a 5-star. Don't review it at all.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, that'll do it for us, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks for listening.